One thing that you can expect when you get to federal prison is it's really a self-directed environment. And that means that you're not going to find a lot of classroom training. You might find a lot of apathy and indifference to the life and the complications that you want to build when you get out. But you should know that it is a real challenge for a lot of people when they come home from prison. When you come home from prison, there's no more 3 meals a day. There's no more clothing. There's no more places to sleep. The government is going to private, at least not necessarily. I mean, I cannot overemphasize the importance of you starting today to prepare for the success that you want to have in the future. Too many people who go into the system have a really myopic view. That means that the only thing that they could see is, oh my God, how is my life going to change? What is the sentence going to be? But to really be successful, you've got to zoom out. You've got to look at the future and look at the past and say, what am I going to do to build a bridge that will lead me out of this, morass that I'm stuck in right now, where I may feel like a puppet with defense attorneys and prosecutors and prison administrators and probation officers all controlling the strings of my life. How am I going to get to the stage where I am the CEO of my life and controlling my own destiny? And I will absolutely discourage anyone from hiring a prison consultant and thinking that person's going to solve your problems. Most of the people build careers in prison consulting because they can't make any money doing anything else. And they get out of prison and they say, oh, well, super simple job. Let me share what I learned in my 1 year in a prison camp, and I'm going to charge people thousands of dollars. I'll just steal stuff from my website or use artificial intelligence to put a bunch of nonsense together. You can do this. You can be the CEO of your life. You could use artificial intelligence just as well as that prison consultant can. You know your life better than anyone else. And what means that you've got to start by building this pathway of literacy and recognizing, okay, I'm in a bit of a challenge. What am I going to do to change things? These are the lessons that I learned from studying leadership while I was going through 26 years in prison. At the start of my journey, I knew I was going to prison for multiple decades because once I was convicted, at first I went to trial and made every bad decision a guy could make, and I was in solitary confinement. But after a jury convicted me, I had a minimum mandatory sentence of 10 years and a potential sentence of life. My judge gave me 45 years. But all through that journey, I could exercise discipline and critical thinking to figure out how to engineer a pathway to success, just like you can do. And it starts by really defining success. When I was in prison, I used to think, well, what is it going to cost me when I get out of prison? What kind of challenges am I going to face? I will have had no work history because I've been in prison my whole journey. I will have no credit because I will have been in prison my entire journey. I will have no money unless I do something about it because the government had taken everything I had. Well, actually, defense attorneys took everything I had. But the point is, I had to engineer a pathway to financial literacy and financial stability. And so I started to, reverse engineer it. What's it going to cost when I get out? And over the years, I would continue to modify that kind of budget. And if you do this very early, you're in a much better position than you would be if you did it later. I set a goal of saying, when I get out of prison, I want to have enough money in the bank when I get out, before I get out, enough money in the bank to have resources to buy everything that I'm going to need, but also to live for a full year without an income in case I don't get a job. Because there's a good chance I won't get a job. I used to consider myself unemployable. If I get out of prison, I would say, who's going to hire a guy that's, I knew I wouldn't get out till I was 49. Who's going to hire a guy who's 49 years old with no work experience and, has a felony background? It's going to be very tough. It doesn't mean I can't get a job, picking up garbage, but that's another pathway to poverty. Okay. I'm not going to be successful unless I learn how to create my own leads, create my own deals, make my own money. And to do that, I need to have stability, right? It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got to satisfy the basics in order to start advancing your quality of life. And that, for me, I realized it's probably going to take me, at least $20,000 to $30,000 just to get stable. But if I'm going to live for a year, which I'm going to need to do, otherwise I'm going to be getting some type of a job that takes my time, and time is the one thing you don't have when you've lost 26 years to prison. So that's my story. And if you read Earning Freedom, you're going to learn the way that I navigated my way through that journey and put myself on a pathway to become a multimillionaire so that I could do what I really want to do, which is help you build a pathway to success and never lie to you, never ask you to do something I didn't do, and never ask you to pay me a penny for anything. Everything on Prison Professors is free, which is why I'm telling you I believe in you. I believe you can do it. But in order to do it, you have to think methodically. You've got to start today engineering a path to success. I have no doubt that you've been successful in many areas of your life before. And that unless you won the lottery, that success didn't happen by accident. Whether it was getting into college and realizing, okay, I better get good grades in high school and I better do some community service and do some other things so I'm a good candidate to get into college, or whether it was becoming an entrepreneur and figuring out how am I going to find create a business that solves people's pain points, and then how am I going to trust prospective customers to believe in me and hire me, and how am I going to build a track record, right? At various stages, you have been successful. You didn't outsource it, okay? You didn't depend on some outsourced group to solve all your problems. You figured out, how do I become financially literate? How do I learn how to develop the capital that I need to overcome the challenges in my future? How am I going to persuade people to believe in me and create opportunities that I could use to reach the next chapter of my life? Because life is always, a series of incremental stages, and you climb those stages by being incredibly deliberate, intentional, being the CEO of your life, making sure that you have a very good plan, a realistic plan. I got out of prison at 49 years old, and when I got out of prison, I had to begin thinking about, where am I going to be when I'm 59 years old? Where am I going to be when I'm 54 years old? I remember driving across the bridge after my wife, whom I married inside of a federal prison, and I told her, I'm going to have our first $1 million within 5 years. And she asked how, and I said, I'm going to use the same principled strategies that got me through prison. I cannot tell you how many times I hear from people. In fact, I just got a text, in the last 10 minutes. I'm going to try and read it to you without revealing anybody's name. It says, "Hi, Michael. Let's just call it's Jane. I sent you a message a few weeks ago, and I'm following up. I am desperate for consistent income, and am actively searching for employment." Okay, that's very difficult. It's very difficult to be middle-aged and get out of prison without an income stream. It is very difficult. But if you start planning early, you could sow some seeds today that will lead you to more success in the future. You can't get there with happy talk. You can't by believing everything's going to open up magically for you on the other side of the journey, because it doesn't. It only opens up magically for you if you do a tremendous amount of work and personal development. It's the reason I would really encourage you, use all the tools at prisonprofessors.org. Ask questions. Use the artificial intelligence bot on the bottom. Look at my own profile. Build your profile. Identify your biography. Tell me what's different in your life. Why are you a great candidate for the next opportunity? Write a daily journal. Start right now. What did you do today to prepare for success? Life is about overcoming challenges. What are you doing to overcome challenges? Demonstrate that you're self-directed by reading books that align with what you want to do in the future. Build a release plan. Start building a resume today that will become an asset for you when you're sitting across the table from the bank who's telling you, we're going to fire you, we don't want your money in our bank, or from an employer who says, why should I hire you instead of this person who doesn't have a felony record? What assets are you going to put together to help you overcome? And that doesn't only mean financial assets. It could be human resources. It could be a resume. It could be a body of work. In Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Sentence, I describe all of the resources that I created, which put me on a pathway to more opportunities. There are always more opportunities in the future than in the past, but only for people who sow seeds today for the success they want to build tomorrow. I know that you can do it, and I know a prison consultant can't help you with that. You have to do the work, and I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. If you need to talk to somebody, I would love to say I'm available, but I'm not. The only person I recommend and trust is Justin Paperny And you could participate on his weekly webinars that he offers to members of our community by just visiting his site at whitecollaradvice.com/nonprofit. He answers your questions. He'll give you some guidance. He'll point you in the direction for free information and offer other resources and services. Everything at Prism Professors is free. I encourage you to invest your time before you waste money on charlatans who fancy themselves experts. You be cool.